Arcadian Vanguard presents the Wrestling News in your daily wrestling newscast for Friday, October 21st, 2022. Good morning. I'm Mike Sempervive. We begin today with more news of WWE and AEW running head-to-head. WWE recently filed a trademark for the term Deadline, which Fightful learned may be the name of the next NXT Premium Live event after Halloween Havoc, which will take place Saturday, December 10th. That's the same date AEW announced last Tuesday night for the next Ring of Honor pay-per-view Final Battle set to take place at the University of Texas at Arlington. Although running on the same day, the two events are scheduled for different times, with ROH Final Battle beginning at 4 p.m. Eastern and the NXT Premium Live event expected to take place in the evening. The report also indicated that the NXT show is being planned for a location other than the WWE Performance Center in Orlando, Florida. NXT has not held an event away from the PC or Full Sail University since before the COVID-19 pandemic. An update on the upcoming Vince McMahon documentary from Vice TV. The Wrestling News has learned that the documentary, The 9 Lives of Vince McMahon, originally scheduled to air on Vice last Tuesday night, has been pushed back to December. Produced by Vice's news division, the documentary will cover the career and controversies of the former WWE chairman. Vince Russo, Brandon Thurston, Brian Alvarez, and Dave Meltzer are among those who have been publicly reported being interviewed for the documentary, and producers have indicated to the Wrestling News that Chris Jericho, Ross and Bruce Hart, and Eric Bischoff were also amongst those asked to participate. The Wrestling News' Brian Solomon was also interviewed for the documentary. No reason was given for the postponement. We'll let you know a specific date once it's announced. In more WWE news, here's the Wrestling News' Lou Kipilman.
NXT wrestler Cameron Grimes had his first match on a main roster WWE show, defeating Akira Tozawa on WWE Main Event, which aired yesterday on Hulu Plus, but was recorded Monday night during the Raw taping at the Paycom Center in Oklahoma City. Grimes was also featured during the main Raw show on Monday in a backstage segment with AJ Styles and the OC. He has been wrestling for NXT since March 2019. Also wrestling on Main Event was NXT's Duke Hudson, who lost to Cedric Alexander. Hudson has also been with NXT since March 2019, but was briefly used on the main roster in the spring of 2020 as Brandon Vink, one half of a tag team with Shane Thorne. For the Wrestling News, I'm Lou Kipilman.
In Impact Wrestling news, Heath and Rhino emerged from last night's episode of Impact Wrestling on Access TV as the new Impact World Tag Team Champions, defeating Honor No More's Matt Taven and Mike Bennett in a match taped at the Washington Avenue Armory in Albany, New York on October 8th, the night after Bound for Glory. The win came when Heath pinned Taven after hitting him with his wake-up call finisher. Moments before, Maria Kanellis had accidentally thrown powder into the face of her husband Bennett, then taken a gore from Rhino.
Powder in a bag here. We're going to blind the War Machine. No!
Maria blinded her husband!
Not like this!
Wake-up call! Oh, Taven!
What happened? And Taven doesn't know what happened to Mike, but he better watch out!
A disaster for the kingdom! Oh! Lord to Maria!
Not again! It was the kick and Bound for Glory! And now...
Wake-up call! Wake-up call! Cover! Cover!
What? You gotta be
He's
kidding!
done it!
This was the final Impact appearance for Taven, Bennett, and Kanellis, who made their debut in AEW last Friday night on Rampage. In news from outside the ring, Jeff Hardy's DUI pretrial hearing, originally scheduled to take place last Wednesday in Florida, has been pushed back until November 17th, according to PW Insider. The postponement came at the request of Hardy's attorneys, who appear to be trying to work out a plea agreement with the prosecution to avoid a trial entirely. Hardy was arrested on the morning of June 28th and charged with driving while intoxicated, his third such offense in the past 10 years, as well as driving with a suspended or revoked license. Hardy has pleaded not guilty to the charges, the worst of which could get him sentenced up to 5 years in prison if convicted. And we close with news of two tragic losses yesterday, both of which were originally reported by Fightful. Tristan Nash, son of WWE Hall of Famer Kevin Nash, passed away yesterday at the age of 26. He had recently started working with his father on Kevin Nash's podcast, Click This. Tristan was born 2 days after his father returned to WCW as part of the NWO in 1996, and Kevin Nash has discussed in the past how spending time home with him was a motivating factor for his leaving the WWF for the lighter WCW schedule. The loss also occurred on what would have been the 64th birthday of Scott Hall, Nash's longtime friend and associate, who passed away last March. Also, Brian Muster, AEW's lead video engineer, passed away unexpectedly yesterday morning at the age of 36. Muster had been with AEW since 2019, and before that worked as a lead video engineer for Impact Wrestling for 10 years. He is survived by his fiancée and 2 young children. And before we leave you today, we'd like to remind you that however you consume your content, you can find the wrestling news 24 hours a day and 7 days a week across social media. On Twitter, follow us at Wrestling News AV. Our Facebook page is also Wrestling News AV. The Wrestling News can also be found on the Arcadian Vanguard YouTube page. And for those who utilize Amazon Echo devices, just tell Alexa to play the Wrestling News podcast. And remember to make sure you add podcast at the end. Once again, for daily updates, breaking news, and more, follow the Wrestling News across social media. And that's the news for today. If anything happens, we will be here to tell you about it. No clickbait, no paywall, just the Wrestling News. The Wrestling News is a division of Arcadian Vanguard, and the Wrestling Newscast is a production of the Arcadian Vanguard Podcast Network.